random incidents of violence, you know, you can't say that you're kind of asking to be beaten up. You can't say that people who are being killed by bombs were kind of asking for, you know, it's not always so simple, so black and white. I think what you can say is that we all share similar tendencies, and that when we're in a room with a group of people who are happy, we feel that happiness. When we're in a room of people who are upset and angry, we feel that happiness. So I think that there is something in our interpersonal relationships that we have to be aware of. If you are irritable and hostile, people are going to be irritable and hostile to you.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
so
the reflection.
That's the reflection.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't think it's because of any karma that you have together. I think it's possible that our behaviours are set in patterns with some people and some situations. So I know some people when they work, there's one friend of mine, he has a list of difficult people in his life and no self-awareness around a common theme, which is of course him. So this person always has one other person in a workplace, in a organisation, in a sports club, in a house, like share house, in a monastery, wherever he goes, there is always one person who ruins it for him. And this difficult person takes away all of his joy, all of his happiness, because he keeps on paying attention to that person, and because he sets this person in stone as a difficult person. So that pattern of behaviour is something that he needs to become aware of in order to be happy. So it's possible that that's, when we talk about these repeated situations that we find ourselves in, that the problem is in us. Not that it's a permanent problem, it's just that we're stuck in a pattern of behaviour. And that's why we need to change. So if you think about all the strategies that I've tried to share with you today, the biggest one, the biggest takeaway is that whatever we're doing at the moment is not working. We're getting upset, we're getting irritated, we're encountering more and more difficult people. The solution is that we need to change something here. We need to act in a different way. We need to respond to situations differently. We need to respond to people differently. And in doing that, we can start to break those patterns and to create change. So that's the big takeaway. Especially with family, you know, when we love our family, when we don't spend too much time with them. But if you spend too much time with them, you start to see old patterns come back from your teenage years, or from whatever stage of your life. You start to see these patterns come back, and so it's so dangerous, you know, to go through life unaware of the things that create problems for us and how they create problems for us. So we need to have awareness of the drawbacks of these minds appearing, but also awareness of the patterns that allow these behaviours to occur. And it's often around perception. That's where we can create the shift. That's the pivot point.
As perceptions in our own mind, as you said, are what cause all unwholesome states, does that mean that silently exploring one's own mind is the way forward, and that things out in the world, talking to people even, is not the way to find a way forward, but to just reflect and try and purify your own mind?
Yeah, this is what we need to do, but maybe not like an extreme kind of just like hit the eject button on the world and everything will be okay, because I no longer need to deal with difficult people because I'm living in a hut in the middle of the forest. And so the image for this one, I think I shared it at the Mitra conference, is that we need to look after ourselves, but not in a way that we don't also look after others. So there's a whole series of suttas in the Anguttara Nikaya 4s where the Buddha talks about 4 different types of people. And the first person in this particular sutta is someone who doesn't look after themselves, doesn't look after their own ethical conduct, and doesn't look after the ethical conduct of others, so isn't interested in other people's good qualities being there. So this person doesn't practice for themselves, doesn't practice for others. So when we as meditators don't practice for ourselves or others, this is the worst kind of person that you could be. The second type of person is someone who practices for others. I'm going to purify my mind only so that my interactions with others will be good. This person practices for others but not themselves. The third type of person is someone who practices only for themselves, which is the method you just described, but not for others. And this kind of person, the Buddha says, out of these 3 different types of people is the best so far. And that doesn't make much sense sometimes to some people because they think, hang on, Buddhism is supposed to be all about, kindness and love, and here we have a person so selfish, they're just looking after themselves. But the image is that oxygen mask analogy. So you put your oxygen mask on first and then you help others. So that's the kind of person that you're talking about, someone who just kind of resigns from the world, doesn't have to encounter difficult people. But although they're the best out of those 3 people, the best person is the 4th person, and that person practices for himself and practices for others. And that's how the Buddha tells us that we should practice as Buddhists. We shouldn't just retire from the world and hide. We need to benefit others, and we need to do what is praiseworthy and praise others for doing praiseworthy things. So in that case, being solitudinal, sitting in a mountain top, just practicing metta, it will bring benefit to you, but it won't bring benefit to others in the same way as going out there and sharing. So I don't think it's good to just ignore people in the world. We need to understand that we are dependent on each other. Not so much that we sink or swim according to other people's virtue, but in the sense that our community is made up of people just like us, and if we can look after our own minds, practice good qualities in ourselves, and that will influence people. So when we're kind, when we're generous, when we're faced with difficult people and we don't respond with negativity or hate, then that has an impact. People can see that there are different ways of behaving. So it's very important to both practice yourself and share that with other people through your behaviour. Any other questions?
So I'd like to ask you about one of the strategies that you mentioned before, which is lowering your expectation. And then if you make the assumption that, okay, people are going to disappoint us anyway, hoping that we'll get the pleasant surprise, aren't we making the assumption that people are bad, which is negative in the first place?
No, we just have a reality check. So the problem with our expectations as they are is that we expect people to meet our expectations. And this is the problem of difficult people. Basically, what they're doing is not pleasing us. So they're not meeting our expectations. So this is just a redressing of that imbalanced view. So difficult people are difficult to us because they don't do what we want them to do. They don't behave the way we want them to behave. They don't please us. They don't say the right things. They don't give us the right presents. They don't take us to the right restaurant. They don't do this, they don't do that. Basically, they're not pleasing us 100% of the time, 50% of the time, 20% of the time, whatever. They're not making us happy. And this is because we have an expectation that they will. But this is This is an absurd expectation. People aren't there to make us happy. People aren't there to read from the script that we wrote for them to make our lives better because it's my way. That's not what people are there for. So we need to have an understanding that people will not meet our expectations because we're only seeing that from our own perspective. And this is the problem. It's a prison of our own making. You know, it's very easy to be disappointed with other people because they're not us. You know, if only everything was my way, the world would be perfect. If only people were more like me, the world would be great. But this isn't, you know, reality. So that's why this strategy is not to say, okay, people suck, people are gross, people are awful. It's just to say, okay, look, we need to change the way we're looking at the expectations that we have. So if we lower our expectations, it's actually more likely that people are going to meet them. Hopefully.
If you're saying that there's like the three ways of dealing with difficult people, all that kind of come back to us, is it recommended that we approach all three ways together as like one approach? Because it seems like that approach of saying that like of just lowering your expectations feels like in some circumstances it won't really work completely on its own, because it could just make you kind of like the world's terrible, everyone is bad, and someone you could be caught up in someone always, or okay, I'm going to go to this place and someone's always going to be mean to me, and so your expectation originally would be, oh, everyone's going to be nice to me here, and then when they are mean to you, then they're a difficult person. But if you go, okay, well, someone's going to do something I don't like at this place, you could get kind of caught up in that. But would like having an open view about the three different techniques, I can't remember what the other two were exactly, but the three different techniques of dealing with difficult people, is it better to have them as a holistic approach?
I think that with any kind of advice, we need to apply it in our own way. So that's why I gave the legal disclaimer at the beginning, because this is just advice from the time of the Buddha. You know, it can't possibly apply to every particular situation that we have. So it's just very general. And when it comes to our own practice, we need to be more like artists. So we need to take a little bit of colour here, a little bit of colour there, to mix the right colour to make. You know, we can't just say, this is the way it's going to be, this is the only way to practice, this is the, you know, this is a very structured way of kind of trying to live our life. And again, we're just going to be disappointed because the world is chaos. So we need to be more courageously
artistic.
Yeah, creative. Yeah, artistic and creative in the way that we encounter people. But if you have a difficult person in your life, it's, like I said just before, it's possible that we're not our strategies so far haven't worked with them. So we need to change. And that's where this creativity comes in. If you want a different flavour, you need to change the ingredients. And there's a wide variety of things you can make with those ingredients. So you just change it up according to what's needed. So with all of these things, it's just very general advice. Just ways of thinking that can shift your perception a little bit. But these things, when you add them up, they are the Buddhist path. And you know, I believe that the Buddha had a lot of wisdom. I believe that when the Buddha met with people, he didn't see them as difficult people. You know, he understood the nature of their suffering. He understood why they behaved like this. He saw the conditionality of their existence. And he knew that these people are a result of their karma. So he didn't, you know, try to solve them or didn't try to fix them up. He just gave them love and compassion. And that's the essence of the Buddha's path. And so all of the steps that I've given you today are to allow you to get to that point where the love and the compassion naturally arise. So that's why we need to change the perceptions. We need to see things differently.
Actually, Bhante, when I read the sutta that you're talking about in terms of the Buddha giving advice, what do you expect when someone does hurt you, when someone does disappoint you, etc. I laughed out loud because it was just such obvious advice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It was like, well, yes, you're right. What else do you expect? So I agree with you. Sometimes when you read those suttas, it applies to a particular situation, because obviously at that time the Buddha was talking to a particular person or group about their situation and then applying that antidote.
Yeah, but we can learn from that. That's why it's so powerful. That's why the Buddha's teaching is full of such wisdom, because he said the way that we look at the world is topsy-turvy, it's upside down, and the way I talk about things goes against the stream, he said. And so it's very easy to think, because of the way our culture is set up, other people are the problem, I'm the one who's right, people should meet my expectations, people should do this, people should do that. There's all these rules about how we interact, why don't they stick to them, those kinds of things. But people will still continue to be difficult. And the only way that we can work with that is to protect our own minds. And so it's thinking like this, which is actually quite revolutionary, because it takes the problem and it gives us an opportunity to actually do something positive with it, and to actually create a change in our mind. And I think probably it's difficult to see how this functions unless you do a lot of meditation, because you see the mind becoming more and more pure, more and more clear, more and more clean. And so when negativity arises in the mind, you can't abide it. It's like a beautiful clean floor. You've just mopped this beautiful clean floor, and then a little bit of dust settles on it. You can't stand it, you have to go over and pick it up. You want that floor to maintain that beautiful, clean, pristine purity. And that's the same with your mind. When you see the mind very clearly in meditation, you can't abide this, even a smidgen of negativity to come into your mind. And that mind state is what you bring to your experience of other people in the world. So that's why it's such a powerful thing. That's why we should work hard to develop our mind, so that when we encounter people, it's just all that's in there is just love and kindness and compassion.
So Bhante, sometimes people's minds, they're like a room. Unlike the pristine room, my mind probably has so much stuff in it that it's just like, well, there's stuff in it anyway, right? So
just keep messing it up.
Yeah, kind of thing. So just as a advice to those people where they don't have that pristine mind, what can you do?
Stop making unwholesome states of mind. Stop having unwholesome actions which lead to unwholesome states of mind. Cultivate positive actions and purify your mind. This is what the Buddha said. This is 3 things the Buddha taught us to do. And they might sound like platitudes, but this is the path. Whatever you have in your mind that is cluttering up your mind or your room, if it's not going to produce good results for you, then get rid of it. Take it out of your room. If it means taking one thing out at a time, good. Start with anger. Release anger. Take anger out of your room. Put it aside. You don't need anger in your room. That's where you sleep. That's where your good actions can be. You can have something else in your room. You don't need to take everything out. Keep the good stuff. Get rid of the bad. So start with anger. That's the biggest one. Then work over to resentment. Get rid of irritation. So just get rid of these things from your mind's room. And it's possible. Even when we do a little bit of meditation, even when we just think about things in a different way, it's possible for us to change our minds. So there is a potential for us to clean out our room. And even though you might not see it, you know that over time that room is becoming more and more clear, because you see in your own interactions with people that they're more wholesome, they're more harmonious, that you're less angry. So you'll see the results, and that will help you clean out your room even more. we're going to run out of time for our little group chats if we keep on talking. Should we just ask a few more questions and finish up? It's been a long afternoon already. But it's good if you go home tonight, or if you're going home with people in the car, just to keep talking a little bit longer about the ideas that we've raised. Just try to become more familiar with them in your own mind, in your own voice. Understand why it's possible to think about these difficult people in a different way, and what benefits that will have for you, and how you might actually try to apply these to your real life in a way that works for you. Should we have one last question before we finish up? All questions answered. Nilushi, she's going to give the hard one.
Well, it's kind of more related to Ari's question. The talk. She mentioned something about manifesting things in your life. I know that's like a bit of a pop psychology, semi-spiritual thing that's kind of in the contemporary scene. Like this whole, I don't know very much about it. There's like some famous books and authors these days. I think about it.
What is it called? The
Secret.
Secret.
Yeah. I haven't written it.
Secret is I'm trying to sell a book.
Yeah, probably. I just wondered what you thought of all of that. Like, is there anything to it?
Oh, it's so bad. So bad. The reason is it's kind of a fatalism, or it's a very distorted view of the way things work. So the idea behind this manifestation kind of philosophy is that you just want something hard enough. If you just want it, it'll appear. And you think, okay, so all those starving people, they just couldn't have wanted food badly enough. Otherwise, it would have appeared for them. All those thirsty people, they couldn't have really wanted a drink because it would have appeared. So it doesn't work like that. What does work is being privileged in certain ways, where you can just say, okay, I'm going to set an intention, and the environment that I'm in, because I have experience of privilege, such as access to, consumable goods, or access to education, or access to a culture that is abundant, those things are a lot more likely to appear in your life. Yeah. So I have friends who kind of manifest, a holiday to Bali or something with their friends, but it's more likely to occur to people who are already rich in some way, have friends who also like to holiday. All these patterns, all these conditions need to be in place. You can't just, if you're sitting on some desert island, manifesting a holiday to Bali, or maybe you are in Bali, it's not going to work. You need to be in a place where you've got access to air tickets, you've got access to a car to take you to the airport. So all of these things, need to be behind it. So you think, well, maybe there's not much truth to this manifesting thing. Maybe there is a power to being aware of our intentions, and that's what karma is. Karma is our intentions. So when we see the relationship between cause and effect, that's when we start to see more clearly the workings of karma. So if you decide, I'm going to manifest a holiday to Bali, and you think, the next thing you know, you're starting to look at brochures or mentioning it to friends. I'm manifesting a holiday to Bali. Oh, I know someone who's thinking of going to Bali. So it starts to happen like that. I think it's just that this intention starts to take some life of its own once we kind of articulate it and put it out there. And that's what is manifested. But this idea that you can kind of just manifest stuff is kind of a bit hocus pocus, I think. But the power of intention is actually important, because that's where we get to control our karma a little bit. So if you intend to be kind and to be loving, then you will manifest some sort of change. But it's not because you're special, it's not because you're unique, it's not because you have the power of manifestation, it's because you're using your intention in a beneficial way, and it will always have beneficial results.
So if you intend to be kind to yourself or compassionate to yourself, even though you find it hard to do that, is that more likely to happen, or is that...
Yeah, yes, definitely. And because of time constraints today, you think 2 hours would be enough, but it's never enough. I was going to offer you a meditation called Chaganusati, which is the recollection of generosity. And I usually mix that with the Silanusati, the recollection of our virtue. And the reason I do this is to get people to reflect upon their own good qualities, which I think in our society is something that we often neglect. But it's an intentional reflection on your good qualities, acknowledging that you have them, acknowledging the deeds that you've done in the past that have been kind, that have been generous, that have been good, wholesome. And when you do that, it's very easy for joy to appear in your mind. The joy becomes happiness, happiness becomes bliss, and then you're having the most wonderful meditation session. Experiencing this positive result through this recollection means that you're more likely to engage in positive, wholesome actions in your life. So there's this kind of positive feedback loop that occurs. And the reason I was going to do it tonight was to get you to think about yourselves as good people, generous people, kind people, and then to kind of ask the question also, but are you also difficult people? Because it's the perception that we have of ourselves that matters. So some people always think they're good, wonderful people. Some people always think they're bad, terrible people. And it's because I can't see in people's minds that I can't tell what's going to be beneficial to them to hear. But I know with myself, I don't have that mind of thinking that I'm a terrible person. So if I did have that mind, I would need to love myself more so that I could redress this imbalance of my perception. And the same, maybe I've got the mind where I think other people are bad, an angry mind, a mind that is hateful. So I need to redress that by being more kind, generous to other people in my mind. So, to cut a long answer short, it's very important to be aware of your good qualities, and the more attention you pay to those good qualities, the more you will be cultivating good qualities in your life, because you see the benefit. And that's that link between the cause and effect. So when you're intentionally generous, when you're intentionally good, that's very, very powerful. We might reach a stage with our precepts or our giving where we're no longer aware of what we're doing. We might just do it out of habit. But this isn't nearly as powerful. It's still good, but it's not nearly as powerful as being aware of our intention. So it's good if you've been Buddhist for a little time and you're kind of like, okay, I'm pretty set at the moment with my Buddhism. I give precepts, I'm cool. Try to mix it up a little bit. Try to take it to another level by becoming more consciously aware of your spiritual practice. So keep giving, but give with more intention behind it. And then reflect upon that intention and see the results in your own mind and outside in the world. And when you keep on doing that, the path becomes very clear to you. And this is what the Buddha saw when he divided thoughts into unwholesome and wholesome. Unwholesome actions having unwholesome results, wholesome actions having wholesome results. So this is what we need to cultivate, and that's the purification of the mind. Sorry if we're out of time now for our little chats, but good luck dealing with those difficult people. Good luck dealing with yourself, because that's where you can solve the problems.
Thank you so much, Bhante. And in fact, I often say to people that I feel that when it comes to the practice of mudita, sympathetic joy, so being able to rejoice in other people's good deeds, their good qualities, and our own good deeds and our own qualities, that's something that is often lacking in our society, and we really need to encourage more of that. So I rejoice with all of you for spending your Sunday afternoon here And I rejoice also with the teachings that we hear today. Thank you so much, Venerable.
My pleasure. Sadhu to you for listening so long.
Thank you. It was beautiful, very practical as well. And if you are interested to really cultivate what we've spoken about in terms of generosity and also being able to reflect on that, people are laughing because they know what I'm about to say. Everything that you see here is all by the generous donations of people who have donated not just their money but their time in volunteering and making this space special. If you are interested in supporting this space that we have here so we can continue to give free talks, free events, free yoga, free qigong, yes, everything's free here. We really hope that you'll be able to form part of this community. So we do have a community of volunteers, we have loads of fun, and also if you would like to support us, we do have donation boxes here. We're also supporting the building of a Sri Lankan school. It's a Dharma school in Sri Lanka. 400 kids who want to learn about Buddhism. They're currently just all squished into a nunnery. And we really hope to finish building for them before the rainy season starts. So we are collecting donations for them as well. There's a donation box there. Enjoy your time here, speak to each other, find friends, and also we do still have some tea and coffee, and feedback forms are going to be provided to you. So thank you everyone so much, and again thank you Bhante.
Pleasure, thank you.
And let's end the session with paying respects to Bhante.
Araham Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivaden Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sangham Namami.
Let us pay respects to the Venerables. Thank you everyone. See you next time.